Hello friends, hope you're all well. Welcome to Success Won't Come Calling. And if you're someone who wants to be better tomorrow than you were today, then you are in the right place. I'm Simon Gibson and I'm patiently waiting for my guest this week, who is Lewis Bailey. And Lewis is one of the leading experts in the UK in health, fitness and exercise. I'm really interested in Lewis's background because he was someone who was in the mainstream fitness industry and decided it wasn't for him. He's now working solely with clients on a one-to-one basis. He's worked with models, he's worked with celebrities, he's worked with athletes. He's a really interesting guy who I think has got a really different take on health, fitness and exercise. Really looking forward to welcoming Lewis. I'm going to be asking questions about what makes for a good exercise plan and what someone should do if they're in a position where they realise that they don't look and feel the way they want to. So, without further ado, sit back, or if you're on the treadmill, don't sit back, relax and enjoy this week's chat with my guest, Lewis Bailey, and I'm back with Stacey at the end for the debrief. Enjoy. Lewis, great to see you. Thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem at all. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So, thanks for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. And I'm so interested in talking to you about your experience, about your future plans, and about why exercise, good nutrition, and general well-being is what you have lived and breathed for the past 20 years. But before that, we do guest rider on the podcast. What have you got us supping, sir?
Well, it's a little bit of a special drink of mine, Guinness and Black. It's an old favourite. There's a little bit of a story behind it. But secondly, I think that the drink itself is absolutely gorgeous. I absolutely love it, and I use it for like a bit of an after training thing. So sometimes if I go and do like a fell run for say 6 hours or whatever, my body is trashed, and I love going to have like an all day breakfast after that. With this, it just hits the spot.
An all-day breakfast and a pint of Guinness and Black.
Yeah, it just does it.
Totally condone this behaviour, by the
You're
way.
talking my
This
language
is probably
there.
around 12 o'clock.
Yeah?
So it sets off early, about 6 a.m.
5 o'clock somewhere
You know what I mean? So I've just burned about 4,000 calories, you know what I mean? So I just think, go and do it. And it's brilliant. But the story behind it really was from the army days. It was the first drink that I had in a pub. And when I was 16, and I was in basic training, I think we were in week 8, and they said, right, you've got a weekend off. And I was like, can we go out? And he said, you can go out, but it's a 2-can rule, and that's your law. So, a couple of lads, we thought, let's go and do it. So we went there, and I got into this pub, and he said, ID. So he showed me ID, and it was Forces ID. And he just looked at me and he went, okay, yeah, all right. So he served me. And so this is one of the first drinks that I was actually having. And a friend of mine just said, he went, try Guinness and Black. He said, just try it. So I had it and I absolutely just loved it. So the 2-can rule kind of went out the window a little bit. And I don't know what we got to, but it got to a lot. And then we ended up getting back later on at night, and we got to the guard room. And so you have to march in, you have to go up to march to the gate, and you have to stand there, stand to attention, and then give your army details. And so I got there, and as I marched there, I was going, be sober, be sober, be sober. and I got there, and as I went to stand to attention, my hand hit the window. And I was just like, and he looked at me like that, the guard commander, and he was looking at me, and he was a parachute regiment, and they hated us. So he was looking at me like this, and he went, you drunk? I was like, I said, no. He said, you drunk, get in the back where all the cells are. So I get in the back, and 2 of my friends were with me as well. They went into the back, and they were older than me. They were like 17 and 18. So anyway, they were giving us the 3rd degree, and they were going at us, and we were stood there like this to attention, and he was really going at us. And he said, right, let's have a look at your ID card, see how old you are. So he picked out the 2 lads, and he went, okay, so you, Jones, he said, you've only just turned 18. He said, that's an absolute disgrace. You shouldn't be doing this. Give him down the banks. Goes to my other mate, Harris. He says, He said, you're not even 18 yet. He said, you're 17. He said, you're just about to turn 18. He said, no, not. It's unacceptable. Comes to me and he went, Bailey. He said, you're 16. And that was it. He tore into us then.
Oh, no.
And then we were getting punished. We were getting absolutely punished for that. But we got charged for it as well. So we got army charged, and this was the drink that done it, So.
Well, it sounds quite tough, but I mean, my mum used to do something similar to that when I got in about 11 o'clock when I was 15, 16, and with that, getting court-martialed is nothing compared to what my mum used to do to me if she thought I was drunk. So you had it easy.
Yeah.
Anyway, here's to you, my friends.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks for coming on, Lewis.
Yeah, no problem.
Now,
Refreshing, isn't it?
it's
lovely.
interesting because the reason I reached out to you, your business now, your expertise is in fitness, it's in exercise, and it's in general well-being. And the reason I reached out to you was when I read one of your blogs, which I found fascinating because the theme of the blog was that the key influencer in good fitness, good weight control, general well-being, good energy levels wasn't diet, it was exercise. Now that seemed to me to be a different message than I'd received over the years from personal trainers, from the fitness industry generally. And the general programming you get seemed to run contrary. So that really interested me. We're going to come on to that a lot more, but let's set the scene here. You're a personal trainer and a coach now, but you work solely for yourself. You work solely with one-to-one, with clients. But your background was, of course, that you were in the more traditional fitness industry. So I know that you owned a gym or two gyms, and you'd worked in other gyms, and then you became a little bit disillusioned with the fitness industry. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so in essence, from coming out of the army, I went straight into personal training. So it was a good 20 years ago now, and I really enjoyed the career. It was definitely the career for me because of me passion for training and fitness. I absolutely loved it and loved it in the army. So it just seemed like the right way for me to go. And so as I started moving through, I couldn't get my head round to start with that someone was going to pay me to show them how to exercise and do fitness. I couldn't comprehend that. And I just thought, why would somebody want to? Because I'd lived and breathed it, so it just seems very strange to me. And I realized that a lot of people really struggle with self-confidence and all sorts of the things when they're in the gym environment. And I remember seeing my very, very first client, and she was just terrified, absolutely terrified on the gym. And I said, you're okay? And she just said, shaking her head, she said, no, not really. I said, okay, well, do you want me to help you? She said, yeah, can you? I said, okay, so let's go sit down, have a quick chat. I said, what is it that you want to do? And she's just, I need to get fit and, I need to change and all this kind of stuff. I said, all right, so, well, let's start working on it, but let me just show you how to go about that, the best kind of practices. And going through that whole process and seeing her where she was with regards to her struggle, and then helping her overcome all of that. None of it was diet orientated. It was all based upon her having that confidence to be able to get into the gym, to be able to do some exercise, to be able to feel good about herself. And she did. And then the things such as, your diet, all those things, they fall into play, over a period of time. But the key thing was her getting to be able to use her body, and so that's kind of where that started for me. And I was fascinated by that, and I was blown away by she trusted me to be able to first of all, just give me the money to help her. And I was like, right, okay, so I want to make sure that this happens now. So from there, I then went on a pathway of education for 20 years, just trying to better myself and learn more about the anatomy and just to be able to help people more. Because I was obsessed about helping people. That was my bottom line. So I was finding so many things in terms of, from a mindset perspective, from a biomechanics perspective. People have got problems with their knees or their backs or whatever. So I was like, right, okay, you need to overcome it. And so if we can overcome these things with, regards to their mind and the way that they think and the way that they are, their insecurities, if we can overcome their problems with their knees or their back or whatever it may be, then that's the majority of the battle. It really, really is the biggest battle. And so once somebody kind of can change that mindset to the way that they think, and they can use their body in a way so they are now able, they are confident within their body to go for the run, to go into the gym, to go hiking or whatever, then the job's pretty much done, because they can then go off from that point themselves and do it. And what I was seeing was this whole big real drive and focus on fat loss and diet. And of course, fat loss is a big part of it, and it's really important. Yeah.
Do you mean that what you were seeing was that as the primary focus of the traditional fitness industry?
Yes.
That it was all about, right, do you want to lose weight?
Yes.
Rather than, for example, addressing issues such as confidence, comfort in a gym environment, the methods through which that end game can be achieved. They were just diving straight in with, right, 10 squats type of thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And for me, it was, I sit there and I look at somebody and someone says to me, I want to lose weight. And it's like, okay, how much does that really mean to you? And then it's 9 times out of 10, even more, is that it doesn't mean a great deal. Some people might say it. Some people might think that, losing weight is a big thing, but it isn't. And that because most of the people who try will end up failing at some point, and not kind of come back to it. And that's the reason why the majority of the population are overweight, obese. So it's, for me, I look at it and say, well, what's the bigger game? My focus with the clients is, how can I get the very best out of you? How can I get everything here to mean something more to you, to have a longer life, to be able to be fitter, leaner, stronger, to be able to run around with your kids to, a very late age and do all of these great things that your body can do, and feel good, every single day when you're getting up, and have the energy and have the ability to take on all the challenges that happen in your life, as we kind of move through. So that's what I see, and I see people and think, well, rather than just kind of looking at losing weight, why don't we go for the real big stuff here that can really kind of change your world? Because that's something that really means something. And the unfortunate thing is that the messages, the communication from the fitness industry is all just about the fat loss, the calorie in, calorie out. Of course, that's a part of the equation, but it's just one part. And I think the bigger focus absolutely needs to be getting people to be able to use their bodies and to be able to develop that right mindset to then, move that forward. I think that is the absolute key to it.
And did you find, obviously thinking that now about your decision, that you didn't want to remain part of what I would think of as like the retail fitness industry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that because you looked at the way you were approaching working with clients and you didn't feel able to get those nuances across from within the retail fitness industry?
Yeah, 100%. Because one of the things that, I set myself as a standard by as being a business owner is results. And so anybody that comes in through the door, they have to get the results. And so it went from me being able to help people on a deep level by going through a kind of coaching journey to unlock all of the issues and problems to be able to get them to overcome so they could achieve the goals, to, right, all of the team can't do all of this because they haven't been down the same pathway as I had. And as much training as I can give them, it's still not the same. And so we had to say, right, we're just going to have to set these parameters in play. And so it had to be, the calorie game and all this kind of stuff. And it just took me down a pathway that I just didn't want to go. So my business was operating differently from the way that I was. And so I just was moving in one direction and the business was moving in another. So it got to that stage. I thought, this isn't me. This isn't what I want. This isn't what I'm about. I want my clients to get what I give them. And the business wasn't really kind of following that. I tried to get it, up to that the best that I could, but it just really wasn't kind of.
Well, I suppose if a personal trainer falls out of one of the brand retail gyms and joins your gym, they're not going to have that mindset that you've described, and if they've done that job for some years, which is all about footfall, it's all about volume, it's all about those sheets you get with the 12 exercises and how many reps and all that sort of thing. Yeah. For you to impart that mindset and goals-based approach without, I would think, sort of more of a bespoke per client strategy, I mean, that would be tough from within a group of PTs.
Yeah, very much so. And I used to take them on educational pathways. I used to give them exams and everything. They hated me. But I was like, listen, you're doing it. Because, it mattered to me. It really did. But it regardless of that, it was my years of experience and time within the field and doing all the things that I'd done is what got me to be able to do what I could do with clients. And I could look at somebody walking and go, right, okay, they've got a problem with the hip there. I need to look at that. These are the reasons why it's hard for you to be able to lunge. This is why you've got a bit of back pain here. And that's because that's my eye sees it. And it's very difficult to be able to train somebody unless they've had the experience of doing it themselves for a long period of time. And so that's what I couldn't replicate that. And so, it had to be a case of, right, we're just going to have a number of KPIs here that we're going to hit, some basics, and then that's the kind of job of the business done. But again, it wasn't in alignment with what I was really about or what I could do. So,
it's a very bold and purposeful approach you took, because I think there'd be many people who would just sort of shrug and say, oh, well, to hell with my principles here. If the money can keep coming in at the right levels, then, we'll live with it.
Well, this is it. And the other thing is, as you know, business is hard, really, really hard. And I think that when you have those times when business gets rough, and it really did at one stage, I made a couple of really bad investments, running away with my own ego.
Sure.
Everybody telling me how great I was because what I've been doing in the industry and all this stuff. And so, I made some bad decisions. And then a couple of unfortunate things happened inside the business as well. And we lost clientele. And when all of that compounded at the same time, it was a battle for a good 18 months to keep everything all moving. And then once we kind of got through that, I sat there and looked at it and just thought, this isn't what I want to do here. Absolutely not for the rest of my days, definitely not. And so that was the decision from there to say, you know what, I'm going to kind of come away from this industry. So sold one of the studios, and then the other one, I passed it on to the guys. I said, listen, you've been here now, you've been a part of my team and helped me, and you can have it, it's yours. So everything's all boxed off, you take over it, the kit's paid for, away you go, and so make what you want of it.
And your business now effectively is you. I know you've worked with athletes, with celebrities, with models, with the business community, entrepreneurs. That's on a one-to-one basis, on a much more horses for courses, bespoke, goals-based approach, where you can apply the importance, because what becomes very clear is you're not knocking the importance of good diet and good, reasonable calorie control and all that sort of thing, but allows you to approach it on the basis of applying good mindset, getting clear goals, application of discipline, and then fitting good exercise strategies in with things like good diet. That's giving you the freedom to be able to apply your principles to working with clients one-to-one.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I think that one of the things now that I'm trying to get across really is the bigger message of not just looking at this from a calorie by calorie basis, and let's start looking at like the biggest levers that we can pull on that are going to give us the maximum effect from our efforts of trying to get into best shape but feeling great at the same time. And I remember an old friend of mine, when I competed on stage, an old friend of mine who was bodybuilding, he turned around to me, he said, how you feeling? I was like, I said, I'm not feeling great. I was down to around about 5% body fat. And I said, I'm not feeling great at all, because it's horrendous what you go try and put yourself through to get down to that level. And he just said, when you're looking your best, when you feel like death. And I was like, great. And for, I would say, a good 3 months, it was just awful. It was just... every day was just a grind, and your energy levels are so low and you're so depleted. It's
because you've got to dehydrate yourself sometimes and that sort of thing.
Yeah, just before the show. Yeah, everything it's not healthy in any way, shape, or form.
Is it no carbs at all?
So it's nothing really. It's not much. It's everything's all stripped right the way back, and it's white fish and green veg, and that's your lot. Really dialing into your calorific intake and doing a lot of cardio with your weight training as well. You're trying to hold muscle, and it's just a torturous journey. Don't get me wrong, on the day, I suppose it feels great getting on stage and showing everything off, but it's not worth it. Absolutely not worth it.
Well, let's see if we get time later, because you've done such a lot in your life. You've already mentioned the army. You've mentioned your career as a bodybuilder. If we get time to come to those, we definitely will. But I want to just move on, because I'm so fascinated by your philosophies and your strategies in terms of the work you do now.
Yeah.
When you talk to me about this issue of mindset, because when I've read your blogs, which I love, I would recommend that everyone visits Lewis's website, which has got all of your blogs on there, some fascinating ones. You've also got your YouTube channel, which has got some great strategies on there, some nice short pieces as well.
Yeah.
But I've worked with personal trainers before. I've got a personal trainer now, and he, to be honest with you, and I'm not just saying this, Phil, top man, he's really good. He does talk about a number of mindset issues, but I've had personal trainers in the past who literally, you meet them, it's 45 minutes free, you get your sheet filled in, and from that moment, it's squats, bench press, 20 minutes on the exercise bike, tick, 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 tick. Job done, see you next week. Now, when I started reading some of the pieces you've authored and watching some of your stuff on YouTube, what fascinated me was this issue that the starting point before any of that is what's going on in there.
Yeah.
What's going on in your head, and in terms of why you're there and what your motivations are. So when you get a new client, what's the first stage in you working along those lines?
Well, it's to look at the motivations, first of all, behind the individual and what they want to accomplish. So I'm always interested to see how much this person really wants to be able to change, because that is, in essence, that's the tipping point of whether someone will do it or not. And if somebody turns up and just says, I would just like to lose weight, I can see it straight away. This isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen at all. Because it's just not enough. It's not enough. When I can see somebody that sits there and says, I'm sick and tired with the way that I am. I hate the space that I'm in. I hate the way that I feel. I want to be better. I want to be healthier. I want to feel good, and I want to look great. And I'll do anything just to get it done. I'm like, ooh, right, okay. This person, I can see, wants it more. There's more to it than that. You can see you can see what it means to them on a visceral kind of level. It means something to them. And that's always the starting point, is the driving force. Because if you don't have a strong enough driving force, then it's not going to happen. Because in order for anything to work for you within any field of any goal that you want to accomplish, you're going to have to be consistent at doing the right things. If you don't have the consistency of doing anything, you're not going to last. It's just not going to work. So we've got to be consistent. In order to be consistent, we've got to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And so what's the precursor to that? In order to be disciplined, well, what does it mean? First of all, it means that I've got to do things that I don't really kind of want to do. That's what a discipline is. It's doing something that you need to do whether you like it or not. And so
Absolutely.
when you're in that position whereby, well, I don't really want to do this, you have to look at what is the driving force behind it. Is that driving force stronger than that will of not wanting to do it?
And it's interesting because when you said earlier that the issue of I want to lose weight isn't enough, the part of even me who's someone who does have fitness goals and who really enjoys working out, which we'll come to, but there's even a part of the way I've been programmed which says, really? Well, that is a goal, isn't it? And let me just elaborate on this. When you go into the gym in January and it's twice as busy as it was at the start of December, I would bet that the vast majority of new members and probably a good proportion of the existing members are literally there with a view to the scales the next weekend reading differently. Now, what you said does seem very sensible because that's just a number, isn't it?
Exactly.
On the scales.
Yeah.
And what you're actually wanting to achieve won't just be gratification in looking at that number.
Correct.
It could be you look better in your shirts. It could be that you've got more energy. It could be that you feel better when you're on holiday or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it interests me that you trying to flush that out of people might be a better strategy than them just having that membership at the gym till the end of January when they give it up and probably keep paying the direct debit for about another 7 months or something.
Yeah, 100%. It's you know, why are you doing it? You know, what are you doing it for? And if you can't dig into the strong reasons behind that, then you're going to run out of steam, because trying to do something over and over again, which is difficult, that you don't really kind of like doing, over time, if that's not strong enough, then you're gone, you're finished, you know, and then it goes back to the whole, you know, a couple of months later, I'll have another go. Christmas comes back around, or I'm on holiday, whatever. Then it's back to January. Okay, this year is definitely the year, and it's like, you know, you're just going around here.
Yeah.
So, you know, you have to look at it, and when I've researched it, because this is what I teach people now, is I look at the people who are successful, and in different fields as well, and look at all that and say, okay, it isn't about an A to B kind of strategy here of success. This is about the individual that's behind this, and what is it about that individual? Because if there was solid blueprints of how to get from this point to this point, everybody would have done it. And it doesn't matter how great a strategy is. It's about the person traveling through that journey, is whether they're going to get from that point to that point. And that's where it is. And so it's like, okay, so what's the big thing about these people that can do it? And it always starts off is they have a burning desire to want to accomplish it. It's that passion, it's that fire, it's the I am doing this.
So to apply that to this issue of developing the mindset, the motivations, someone who is overweight, the motivation could be, I'm going on holiday in July. It's February now, and I want to look good by the pool.
Yeah.
Now that's got a semblance of a good motivation.
Yeah.
But isn't the important point how important that is to you? And if it is crucial to them that they want to look better,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah.
If it's more of like just a knee-jerk reaction, then perhaps it's not so great.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, if to touch on that point with going on holiday, what I would do is that someone would say, you know, I'm going on holiday and it matters for me to be in better shape. It's like, right, okay. I want to pull a bit more out of that. Okay. So for me, I'm then going to say, okay, so what is it that makes you want to be in better shape for when you go on holiday? Why does that matter? And then it's like, well, you know, just want to, you know, look good by the pool. And is it that you want to look good by the pool, or is it actually you've got a fear there by the way that you look now standing by the pool? Is it a fear? And it's like, and then they start then to really start to go into it. It's like, right, okay, we're getting somewhere now. And so then it's like, okay, well, how are you going to feel now if you're at the pool as you are right now? with not much on, just your shorts, whatever, bikini, how are you going to be feeling right now? Not great. Right, okay, you need to keep that in your mind and be using that as your fuel each day. So when you're running out of steam doing the things that I need you to be able to do, then start thinking about how you're going to feel if you don't get there.
Because I guess the pool analogy is an interesting one, because I think perhaps a stronger motivation would be to say the pool's only part of it. What about before and after you go on holiday? Aren't you going to feel better? Aren't you going to be sort of fulfilling the same motivation if you look better in your shirts and in your dresses?
Yeah.
I don't wear dresses. But if you... But to sort of say, well, it's not just about your holiday. You want to look better generally.
Absolutely,
and keep that in mind.
Yeah. But that's it. And I think it's a case of using the biggest powerful drivers that you can for that individual. And so if it's the standing by the pool and having that fear of standing there, looking as they are right now, I can see as the biggest thing. It's like, okay, that is a part here of the equation to get this person going.
Yeah.
And yeah, also then touching on the longevity of, having plenty of energy and all of these things. And we bolster all of those things together. And now it means something a lot more. And now it's like, okay, so when this person is struggling, which they're going to inevitably do at some point, they'll pull on that driving force. And I'll be saying to them, start having to think now about the reasons why we're doing all of this, and then go back over again those reasons why. And then it helps them then move forwards then for that process. If those things aren't in play, it becomes incredibly difficult because it's like, well, yeah, I kind of do, but it doesn't really matter if, don't lose it. And then
this is the end of January feeling, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is.
When people stop going to the gym.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Do you ever get approached by a new client who, having gone through that sort of exploration of motivation, who you think, this is one of the end of January guys, they've not perhaps got it?
All the time.
Really?
Yeah. It happens most of the time. So you have to work hard in that zone, in that area, to really make sure that this matters to them, because I can see what is going to happen. I can see what's going to happen in 3, 4, 5 weeks time.
Yeah.
I know what's going to happen. You're going to get tired. You're going to feel physically tired because you're doing more exercise now. You just got to wait for your body to get better, to get fitter, to get stronger, and then that will start to subside and you'll get more energy later on down the line, but you're going to have to go through that.
Yeah.
You're going to get sick and tired of the diet. You're going to be, you're going to have cravings and all these kind of things. And it's not like you have to be rigid on your diet in any way, shape or form, but it's going to have to be better than having what you're having right now, And so there's so many difficult areas to be able to negotiate. And so you have to put that into play, because that's the thing that's going to help them overcome those issues and problems. I mean, I've done it with a lot of people in terms of saying about, what you look like naked in the mirror, look at yourself now. How would you feel about it? And really getting them to deep dive into those feelings, as much as they possibly can. Sometimes, a lot of the times, the ones with people who've got families and kids, that's a very good one to be able to use to say, look, let's just start thinking about the bigger picture here, about your family. What does this mean to them? What does it mean for you to be able to have a longer life with them? What does it mean for you to be able to maybe inspire your kids, to show them that you are in a difficult position and you can overcome it?
Because, that's interesting as a motivation, isn't it? Because I think most of us could see how important that was, because that's not just about improving your health and fitness. That's about overcoming challenge.
Yeah, 100%.
And if you develop that resilient, determined mindset, you can apply that in education, you can apply it in business, you can apply it to areas of poor health which may be outside of your control.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. So why, I'm asking a question that I think I already know the answer to. Why is it that the conventional fitness industry doesn't have a sort of motivation and mindset triage when new members join? Why aren't they saying, look, we've got a brand to protect here. We don't want people who just join and then leave at the end of January or sort of stop coming at the end of January and just pay us for the next 6 months? Why isn't this focus upon, let's get your motivations clear, and then maybe if you haven't got that motivation, we don't want to take your money type of thing?
I think it's, there's a lot of challenges in it. If you was to look at a gym structure, numbers matter. It's how many people go through the door, obviously. And so if we've got 5,000 members, how do we now engage on that level to be as effective for them? They do need people to be able to keep coming in, because the more that they keep coming in, the more likely it is that they're going to keep the membership. So they do try different things to be able to get people to come back in. But ultimately, if they might have, say, one person that could specialize in mindset, as an example. How is that one person going to be able to help this 5,000 members? And it then becomes the numbers battle. And so that's where it becomes very, very, very difficult. So, there's a lot more work to be done, a lot more work. And so, I found it challenging from my perspective with running just, a small studio, 13 staff, but it was still difficult. It was still really, really difficult on that scale. So, to be able to do that across thousands of people.
It's very challenging.
Yeah, very much so, yeah. But I think that there should be more from an educational perspective. I think that each sort of facility should have, here's a video training series. This is what's going to help you overcome, X, Y, and Z. And for those people that go through it, the probability of staying there is obviously going to increase. So if there's any gyms out there that wish to get in touch, then let me know and I'll do all that for you.
Well, that's interesting, because is that part of your business plan then, that you could help gyms in terms of doing what they can to maintain numbers, but whilst applying at least a proportion of their resource towards helping clients achieve their goals?
Certainly. I mean, it's not something that I have actually as like a product in essence, but over the years I've been consultant for gyms, for big organizations, and just helping them put something together in terms of a strategy that's going to have an impact on those people, on their workforce, or their customers, for example. So it's something that, I've been doing that for years. I've done it for Costco for a while, for the police, different organizations. So I've done that across the board. And it's like, right, how can we put something together here that's going to be impactful and is going to be sustainable and able for your guys to be able to implement? And so that's what I've done, for years. So,
It's interesting. Just before we break, I want to just ask you, and we're going to get into much more detail on this in part 2. If someone was to say to you, give me the 3 most important reasons why you should exercise,
right,
what would your top 3 reasons be?
Okay, so I think from my perspective, the 3 most important reasons why you should exercise, number 1 is for your longevity. So if you exercise on a regular basis, then you are going to increase the chances of living for longer and living better at an older age. That is just important in anyone's book as far as I'm concerned. So that's another reason. The second reason for me is there is no drug on this planet that can come anywhere near the beneficial effects of what exercise can do for you. And it doesn't cost you a penny, so do it. And thirdly is you're going to look great if you keep on doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I mean, just to touch upon 1 and 2, something which doesn't get spoken about much is that exercise improves your heart function. It improves your lung function. I always think, and that links in with this issue of longevity. When I was just walking to the studios earlier, I was thinking, well, that's more than just living longer through having a better heart and lungs. It's like if you are in a situation where you need to help yourself, if you need to pull yourself out of a fire, if you that sort of thing.
That's where the majority, well, not the majority, sorry, I think it's around about 25%. So a good portion of people who are elderly, unfortunately, that's how they pass away, is from a fall, is because of their frailty. They're not able to support or help themselves, or they fall over and can't get back up again. And so when you exercise, you obviously become stronger with regards to, yes, your heart and lungs, but the muscular system, the bones, the tendons, the ligaments. And so everything is stronger and you are more able. And so if you're more able, then, that chance of you falling over and not being able to help yourself is then greatly reduced. Yeah. And so, you're doing yourself a huge favor, just in that zone there as well. And I think something else, which I actually didn't mention is one of the three, I think really kind of should be, is the side of the mind. Yeah. And how it has a beneficial effect on the mind. And so for me, trying to reduce the risk of dementia is one of the biggest motivators that people should be looking at really to use, because that's a scary side of life.
Does exercise actually decrease the chance of getting dementia? I know it helps my mental health. Like, I go to the gym because my mind's completely clear. If I'm going to the gym, it gets foggy if I don't go. But I didn't know it decreased the
it
chance
does.
of dementia.
It helps right the way across the board with everything kind of neurological. So your neurological function, it really benefits that. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact mechanics and the reasons why. I mean, that's just absolutely not my field. But I think if you look at it from a perspective of blood flow, a lot of blood flow tends to be the thing that helps a lot of things throughout the whole of the body, and it's the oxygen and nutrients that pass through using the blood flow as well at the same time. So the more that happens within the brain, then the better that it is. So, it's everything that your executive function, as well, your brain actually be able to work and function well. Exercise has a significant impact on that. All the studies are all out. There's no denying it. So for me, when you look at those areas there and those zones, it's like, why are we focusing on calorie in, calorie out when we have this great thing here that does so much for people? This is what we should be leading with.
Well, it's in part two. I really want to get stuck into this. Excuse me, because my own view on this, which we'll come to, is that we have been lied to some extent in terms of the way we're programmed from a nutritional perspective. But we'll come to that. But I think your answer to me in terms of the importance of exercise is live better, live longer, look fantastic, and stave off serious disease in terms of this issue of your neurological functioning. And that all, to me, well, that's quite a headline, isn't it? In terms of why both people should prioritize exercise, but also why they should work with a personal trainer such as you, who will hone in on those as goals, not just the 10 burpees point.
Yeah. 100%.
Burpees.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we all like burpees.
My favourites.
Are they? I bet they are 100 or something as well.
Well, that's been a joy. We're end of part one. We've got the quick half-time, guys, 60 seconds with my recommendation. We're back with Lewis Bailey. We're going to be getting to a little more detail around the science of what we talked about in terms of what happens when we exercise, in terms of how that combined with good diet can lead to all sorts of positive life outcomes. I'm going to be asking Lewis about his plans for the future and, of course, what success means to him. So on that note, stick with us. See you on the other side of halftime with Lewis Bailey. It's halftime, friends. My recommendation this week is a book called The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osmond. I was on holiday recently and I listened to this on audiobook and I really enjoyed it. For those who are fans of the crime genre, it's a very entertaining book. I also found it very, very funny and moving and very compassionate. So that's my recommendation for this week. It's The Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osmond. Reminder that neither Richard nor his publishing company are paying me to make this recommendation. It's just that I really enjoyed listening to it while I was on holiday, and I really enjoyed talking to you as well. So, back to the podcast. It's a cracker, isn't it? We are back with Lewis Bailey. Thank you again for doing this, sir.
Very welcome, and pleasure being here. Loving it.
And I'm loving this Guinness.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a nice, as you say, nice chill out and
yeah, it's. I think it's very pleasant, but it's quite substantial as well.
Yeah.
I think that's why I like it. It's kind of like filling, but it's also refreshing as well. So, yeah.
Well, it's a good point to start because we've gone into the reasons why exercise is crucial, and I want to come back to your view that it's more important than purely a calories in, calories out point. But I just wanted to talk about this issue of nutrition from your perspective, just to sort of set the scene here. I'm not a super fit dude. I don't look as good as I want to. I'm not suggesting I've achieved all of my nutritional goals or my fitness goals, but I am someone who enjoys working out. It's a crucial part of my day. I really enjoy it. And I've also learned more, both through this podcast and through my sort of research elsewhere on this issue of nutrition. I've got to say, the more I learn, the more I think that we've been misprogrammed in terms of this issue of nutrition. Because all of my recollection in terms of growing up was that fat is bad, so get a low-fat yogurt. Don't have sausages. Don't eat much red meat. And fruit is good. Vegetables are good. I even think people used to give me the sort of message that pasta is better than chips. Rice is really good. So anyway, let me come back to where I am. The more I have researched, the more I conclude that people don't have a good understanding of why certain foods are bad for them. Or, well, bad for them is perhaps the wrong way of saying, whilst they're not the ideal nutritional input if they're looking to improve health and fitness. I just wondered, that's a very generic statement. I just wondered what your general thoughts were on that proposition, that perhaps the nutritional programming we've had in the last couple of decades perhaps isn't fully accurate.
It's terrible. I think going down the whole low fat kind of route for the years, it's wrong, and that's been now proven. And when you look at the likes of the ketogenic diet, it's probably now the most researched diet that's ever been introduced into the world. It's nothing but very, very good outcomes. It doesn't mean to say that it's the magic bullet, and it's a difficult diet to be able to implement and keep sustainable within your life. I think that's what's I've done it for 2 years and I loved it. I enjoyed it from the perspective of what it gave me back in terms of how I felt. And I was consuming a lot of fat each day, and it was amazing. And I was still doing my same kind of exercise routines and training, and I just felt great and leaned down as well. And things were really good. So, it was for me, I really enjoyed it, but it's also a highlight of it doesn't mean to say if you're eating a lot of fat that it's bad. Okay. Now, obviously, if you're consuming too much, then of course, anything too much of is going to cause you a problem, so. And
if you're combining that high fat intake with a high intake of, say, processed carbohydrates,
that's a disaster. Yeah. So when you've got those two coming together, high sugar and high fat, then you've just got a problem. And in essence, that's the problem that we're facing now today is that there's way too much of that in combination within our foods. Because what they'll try and do, the food industry, because this is where the problem is, the food industry are excellent. They will have all of the top scientists within their realm saying, right, what do we need to do to make this food taste so good that people just can't resist it? And that's what they do. And they look for the bliss points. So they look for the scores within the brain of the triggers of how much dopamine is being released when you consume some food. And then if it's going high enough, it's like, bingo, we're on. And so
what's dopamine?
So the reward chemical of the brain.
Got you.
So that makes me feel great. It's like, so it's like that.
Feel good, doesn't it?
all of that stuff going on in the brain. So every time you go into that supermarket, just have a look. The second that you walk into the door, what's one of the first things that you're going to see? You're going to see the Krispy Kreme donuts. You're going to see the boxes of flapjacks on offer for £1, all that stuff, because they know that's going to be one of the things that are going to be pinging off in your brain when you see it, especially if you're hungry. And so if your brain, if it smells something, or you see something, and it starts to ping off that reward chemical within the brain is, I want it. And it becomes quite overpowering. It becomes very, very difficult then not to. So the food industry are really clever. And so for me, it's you have to look at things from a perspective of more of a philosophy in terms of a way of eating instead of going on a diet.
Yeah.
And that's the way I prefer to play it, because the more that you go into a philosophy of a diet, let's just take veganism as an example. I don't think that, the vegan diet is the best diet in the world at all. But it has a lot of benefits to it. And if you follow that way of eating, then it is far better than the typical Western diet as what we know now today. And so therefore, that's the reason why from the studies and the research, it's so powerful in terms of the health benefits to it. So if you was to start off by saying, okay, you know what, I fancy giving this vegan diet a go. I think it's going to be good for me. A lot of people say in the press, whatever, that it's good. So let's do it. And you start getting into the diet and you start to enjoy it a little bit. You start to lose a bit of weight. You start to feel a bit better naturally. Okay, so we're all good. But then you start thinking to yourself, well, let's look into this a bit further because I'm enjoying it. And you start to then look at the whole animal side and the cruelty to animals from the intensive farming.
Yeah.
And so you look into that and you start to see, actually, that's not a good deal there for what's happening to animals. In the intensive farming, so in those super farms that they have, it isn't great for animals at all. And so you could then start to then think about your impact of consuming animal products, of what that has on these animals. And so now what you're starting to do is you're linking up more of a philosophy and a way of being within your lifestyle around the way that you're eating, as opposed to just going on a diet. Yeah. Because it's not now just about what you're actually eating, it's the impact, not just beyond you as well, not just you, but beyond you, of what you are eating.
And could that also factor in to this issue of motivation? Because if somebody either is driven towards a vegan diet because of moral and practical concerns around animal treatment, then that could be something which spurs them forward in a way which not only gratifies those views, which benefits them in their health and fitness.
Yeah, because it's something that's beyond you. It's bigger than you, and that's something sometimes that's nice to be a part of.
Yeah,
is it the feeling that you're having a positive impact, on animal welfare, on even from the planet side and the whole ecosystem, is that I think this is going to be a better way to go, and so therefore you're moving more into a philosophy and a way of being, and your diet is a part of that world.
Yeah.
And that then becomes a part of your lifestyle. And then once you reach that point, then you're away. It doesn't matter. This is the way that you live your life, because this is the way that I think, this is what I believe. So for me, the way that I handle it for myself personally is that I eat, a lot of animal product. Yeah. But the way that I look at it is that it's more going for animals that are kept very well. So
yeah, it's your grass-fed ribeye, isn't it?
Yeah. It's organic farming is certainly the way to go for me from an animal perspective. So I like to think that, animals are being looked after, when it comes to their time, then everything's done the right way. And so, knowing that the animal's been kept in good conditions and all of that stuff that's important to me. So, for me is that I do eat animal products because of the benefits that I get from it, and from a health perspective and from a training and fitness perspective. But then also, if I'm doing that from animals that are looked after, then I'm fine. I'm good with that.
Well, animals like us all are going to die, aren't they? And if they are kept well, and as you say, if when their time comes, if that's done in a very humane way, then
absolutely,
perhaps it doesn't cause the moral offence that something like battery hens does, all this sort of thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, the super farms, when you start to look at it, it's not right.
No.
But I understand as well from a pragmatic viewpoint of the world has supply and demand. People need to be fed, and so what do you do about that? So there's a whole big argument.
Well, there is. I mean,
it's world.
It's a podcast in itself, isn't it? But how did linking this back in with your work? If someone comes to you as a new client and you're satisfied that they do have this mindset and clear motivation, and they're prepared to apply discipline to it, from a nutritional perspective, is there a certain set of macros that you recommend, certain food type, certain diet, or is it one that you would adapt depending upon the client?
From a very general perspective, I tend to lead with higher protein. Protein should be a priority from what it does from a muscle tissue point of view. So we need muscle. We absolutely need muscle. Muscle helps us so much from a point of view of obviously longevity, but then also as well your metabolism. So if you've got slightly more lean muscle tissue, then you're burning off more energy at rest, which is a good thing. So if two people are sat down together, one has a higher fat to muscle ratio and the other one has a higher muscle to fat ratio, then the one that has the higher muscle ratio will be burning off more fat, even though they're both just sat there.
Sure.
So it's nice to be sitting there knowing that your body's burning more energy, because that's what muscle tissue will do for you. It's metabolically expensive.
So let's just unpack that. So when someone is training well, and that, because obviously the point you've made, which I understand, that is, even if you sat in a chair, if you've got a protein-rich diet, your body will expend more calories in burning the foods than if you eat lots of carbs or lots of fat or whatever it might be. When someone combines high protein with a good training plan, with a good exercise plan, what's the benefits to them in terms of a protein-rich diet?
Well, just as you mentioned there, what you said in terms of when you consume more protein, it's the thermal effect of food. So if you was to eat more meat, then what would happen is that your body would then expend more energy trying to digest it. So therefore, that can be a range of around between 10 to 30%. And if you're eating more, for example, carbohydrate and fat, then it would be a lot less. So if you're burning off more calories by consuming a certain food, then that's obviously a good way to go as well.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
It does.
So there's that component to it. But I think when you're looking at it from a side of any kind of change, it would be leading with the protein first and then playing around with, the fat or carbohydrate, depending on the individual. I typically like to go more moderate fat and lower carbohydrate.
Yes.
Reason being is because fat makes food taste really good.
Yeah.
And so fat's a key component for me in regards to your nutrition, because one of the things that you want to do is keep consistent. If you want to keep consistent with your diet, then your food's got to taste good.
And sustainable.
Exactly, yeah. So if your food doesn't taste good, then you're not going to stick to it. And there we go again. So, it's like, right, okay, how do I make this sustainable? If I've got more fat in the diet, then it's going to be tastier.
It is, because the best results I've flirted with keto for the last year. And at the start of this year, I did it really strictly for about 3 or 4 months. And during that time, I dropped a size. I went from sort of extra large down to large. I dropped a size in terms of my waist.
Yeah.
And the food I was eating was fantastic. It really was. Just for, I think most people will have an idea of what ketogenic diet is, but just to explain it. Effectively, your body runs on energy, and there are two principal sources of energy. One of which is fat.
Yes.
The other one is glucose.
Yes, yeah, carbohydrate, yeah.
And your body converts carbs into glucose.
Yes, yeah.
So what the ketogenic diet does is it limits the foods that you have which are converted to glucose.
Yeah.
That means your body runs on fat and ketones, which your liver produces when in the absence of glucose.
Yeah.
And that means your body burns fat rather than burning glucose, which means your body means you're lean. Your body becomes leaner in terms of fat because it's being burnt as energy.
Yeah, but that also depends on how much energy is going in as well. So that's the one thing to always be careful with is, yes, that principle is correct, but also it means that if you're consuming more, the energy that you are burning is going back in again if you are going too high. So you still have to be aware of how much you're consuming. It's not a silver bullet to just keep on eating fat and it's okay, because that's not the case. That's not true. So you still have to manage, obviously, how much is going in. You have to put
you
that
do
way.
still have to keep your eye on calories and maybe macros as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I again, typically, I'll say to people is to keep an eye on it until you start to figure out what works best for you in terms of those ratios, and then once you got to that stage, you can then just start to eyeball it. Because I mean, that's typically how I would do it. So when I change things around from a nutritional point of view, I'll go to MyFitnessPal and go, right, okay, everything needs to be changed now. I need to change the macros, I need to change the amount of calories depending on my goals and what I want to accomplish. So for a couple of weeks, I'll be like, right, okay, scanning everything. Now, okay, I've got an idea here now, and then I'm into the flow of just naturally every day, this is what I eat. And I no longer need to track anything because you're just that's your natural diet now.
But MyFitnessPal is really good. For anyone who's listening, who's thinking, I really need to make some changes, and who hears what you say, Lewis, about you do have to keep a close eye on the energy that's going in, whatever the macros of that energy is. I get my best results because I've not, I don't think, ever reached the position you've described where I'm so consistent that I don't need. I know what I'm eating. I know what the calorie content is, etc. I get my best results when I'm being quite granular, when I'm thinking about what I'm eating, when I'm thinking about things like portion control. You know, what's the size of the portions you're having? What's the calorie intake? What's the macros in that meal?
Yeah,
and I think this is the point when some people sort of lose the will a bit. When they're thinking, what? So every meal, I've got to work out what that milk is, what that egg is, that sort of thing.
100%.
How do you get over that?
Right. So this is the great point, and this is what goes on now in the nutrition wars that you will see. It's about calories, it's low carb, all of this stuff. There's so much going on about it. But when you look at it from a very basic perspective, if you was just to focus on eating the things that are, part of the natural world. So meat, fish, nuts, seeds, fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices. And your diet was basically made just of that. And you said, look, don't count a single calorie. When you get up in the morning, have some eggs and have a little bit of asparagus to go with it. And then see how that gets you. And then you'll find that'll see you through till lunchtime. Lunchtime, have a hearty chicken salad. I'm not talking like a small little bit of chicken. I'm talking, 2 chicken breasts or a chicken breast and a half.
Yeah.
See if you can eat it. And then you get through, you might get halfway through, or if you get to the end of it, well done to you. And then you'll be stuffed.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Get to the evening, you'll be like, I don't feel like a really big tea, but I'll have a go. And let's just say it's a piece of steak with some more green vegetables. You don't have to count a single thing. Just crack on with it. See how much you can eat. And you will find by default that your calorific intake will be very low by eating those kinds of foods. It's so easy to do. I struggle to be able to hit my calories and macros every single day. I have to physically force it because that's the way that I'm eating.
So is 3 meals a day enough? Because I've been told 5 small meals or whatever. People always differ. Sorry, Simon.
I mean, I'll typically have 2 meals a day.
Really?
Yeah. The rest of the time it's shakes, and small snacks kind of in between. And so there's no right or wrong in it. I think it's what suits you best. Eating 5 meals a day. I mean, how sustainable is that?
Hard, isn't it? And I'm greedy.
So well, it's just hard to physically do.
Particularly to keep the content of those meals whole foods focused, because
exactly, yeah.
I mean, it would mean that you're eating while you're on the hoof, and that you've got to grab things, haven't you?
Doesn't fit. No. If you're going to be a bodybuilder or a full-time athlete, then fill your boots might give you a bit of an edge. If you're a normal person, then 2 to 3 meals, good solid meals a day.
Yeah,
it's going to see you right.
And lots of water.
Yeah, absolutely. And what I like to do, especially with clients, is I like to use intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I like to use like a 16-8. And that does a couple of things. It helps people to get the head around that you're not going to die if you're hungry and you don't eat. And then once they kind of get through that after, a few days, is like they start to realize that the hunger is just a bit of a sensation.
It's just how you're programmed.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a sensation. It doesn't mean to say that you have to eat. And after 10, 15 minutes, it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I combined intermittent fasting with the keto, and it is incredible how short a time when you've stopped eating breakfast for a short period of time, a week or two, that hunger just goes.
Yeah, it does.
And it gets to the point where you get up in the morning and you just don't want food.
Yeah.
You just have plenty of water. And I know there's, again, intermittent fasting is another podcast in itself, because strictly speaking, you should just be drinking water when you're outside of your particular hours of eating.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people get up and have like 2 sugars in the tea and milk it and say, I'm intermittent fasting. Yeah, but I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I agree with you on that. In terms of the exercise side of this, because we've talked there about how you tend to advise from a nutritional perspective.
Yeah.
Exercise is different strokes for different folks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because when I talk to people who really do not exercise, I think it's similar to the MyFitnessPal. They sort of get away down the track and think, oh, you're joking. What? I go to a gym and I put shorts on and, my rolls are visible and I have to sweat in front of people. And I've got all these really chiseled people doing the concentration curls and all this.
Yeah.
What's your starting position from someone who not only hasn't exercised for some time, but who has some sort of, confidence-based concerns around getting the ball rolling with exercise?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the place to start is to remove the friction. So if going to the gym is one of the worst things in the world for you to be able to do because of a whole host of different reasons, then don't go to the gym. Is that right? Okay, so let's write that one off. Forget it. There's no point trying to go through all of those horrible things that you're going to be going through just to try and get there. And to do that, 3, 4, 5 times a week, let's leave it. Too much of a battle. Come back to that when you're in a better space.
Yeah.
What do you like doing? And that's where we've got to go. What are the things that I do? Do you like cycling? Do you like going hiking? Do you like walking, etc.? What is it? So find the zones. Is it a sport? There's so much out there for you to do, and what we get kind of sucked into is that you go to the gym, but it's like, no, you use your body however you want to use it.
You've got to move more, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah. So how are we going to play that game? What's the thing that you love doing? And so is it going for the run? Is it going cycling? Find the thing that you really enjoy. Let's get going with that. And then in the meantime, I'm going to prescribe you with these exercises that you need to do just once a week in the house, just to touch on a few points that I need you to be able to touch, and that's like the basic functionality of using, the hips, the back, and using the compound movements just to be able to get them to use the body well, because that's the big thing. If you jump straight into sport and you're not really exercise, then you're probably going to get an injury. So I like to cover the basis on doing the things that are really necessary from an exercise point of view. If you just do that once or twice a week at home, 30 minutes, you're done. Rest of the time, if you want to go out cycling, then fill your boots. Let's look at time frames of how much you're going to do, when you're going to do, when we're going to fit it all in. What's going to happen when it's raining? So we look at all angles and it's like, right, okay, this is how we're going to apply it. If this happens on this day, we're going to be training in the garage. If it's, it's raining outside, then turbo trainer in the living room, whatever it is. So there's no thing that gets in the way. It happens.
And are you, as you've talked about the importance of keeping an eye on energy in, are you a fan also of tracking energy out? I mean, I've got an iPhone, which from my perspective works well in terms of the functionality of it, the ability to track calories whilst you're exercising. Are you a fan of that, keeping an eye on how many calories you burn on a walk or a cycle or whatever it is?
It depends again on the individual. If they are numbers focused and just big on the numbers, it's okay, let's track them. if you want to really dial into that world, then let's track the numbers. Because if that's what's motivating you, is seeing those numbers in that detail, then go for your life. Most people aren't. And for me, it's like saying, right, well, I need you to be able to do maybe say 90 minutes of activity a day. It terrifies a lot of people when I very first say that. But it's not about doing an exercise routine for 90 minutes. It's like saying, right, well, if you just do an exercise routine for say 45 minutes, whether it be cycling, whatever it may be, but then using your body for 45 minutes. So if that in a way of doing some mobility work when you get up in the morning, so doing some stretching, moving your body around, get the thing going. Could be going for a walk for your lunch, whatever it is. But I want 90 minutes a day where the thing's moving, because if you're sedentary, this 150 minutes per week is not going to make a dent.
No,
it just doesn't. And so you need to get moving every single day. We need to do that. So it's a case of saying, right, well, let's look at getting 90 minutes in a day and do this however suits you best.
And what I would say to anyone who has that aversion to exercise, the reason why I really enjoy it is because I've been able to find a reason to do it, which goes beyond just fitness, because I view it as me time. So I really enjoy going to the gym, but I also do a lot of walking. I very rarely, I've got a car, but I don't do much driving. So what that means is that if I'm, for example, getting the train into town, if I drove to the station, it'd take me 2 or 3 minutes. If I walk to the station, it takes me 20 minutes, but that's good because it's me time. Because I'll be listening to podcasts or I'll be listening to music or I'll be prepping for my day or these things which are enjoyable. And what I'd say to everyone is it's about moving more. Yeah. It's not about being some super fit dude in the mirror at the gym doing concentration curls. I'm not knocking those people either, but in terms of getting moving,
don't upset them.
No, God,
I've just got an image of someone in a vest now with a little pair of shorts.
But we've all seen them, haven't we? Haven't I don't. That's not me though. Is that you, Lewis?
It's not. Yeah, don't look
Everyone
at Instagram.
likes a little gym selfie.
But that me time could be part of your motivation, because I think because we're all busy, particularly if you've got families.
Yeah.
One of the things you hear a lot in life, isn't it, is I've got no time for myself. And perhaps what that means sometimes is you maybe have got the time for yourself, but you've just not got a way to occupy it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people are good at filling the time with stuff.
Yeah.
I think the thing for me, if you was to use, a lot of busy people typically will have kids and things going on as well. And so if that is a part of the equation, I haven't got time because of, I've got kids and I've got busy with work, business, etc. It's like, okay, that's fair enough. But let me ask you a question. When your kids are watching what you do you want them to be able to see you not doing the things that you need to do? Because they're going to absorb what you do.
Yeah.
And so what you are doing by not doing any exercise or not getting out there and do anything is showing them that you shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And so what you're then doing is you're just creating a space that they are just going to follow and go straight into. So you've got to start thinking about yourself, because that's going to be passed on to those around you.
Totally. I think the other sort of end of the spectrum, and let's apply a bit of me to this. I don't know if Stacey's in a similar position to me, but I really enjoy working out. I've achieved, certainly sporadically, some pretty good results. But my problem tends to be from an exercise perspective, that whilst I may have a general goal, so for example, dropping a shirt size, dropping a pant size, that sort of thing, that measurable outcome.
Yeah.
I sort of get into a bit of a status quo in terms of the exercises that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So it's not a case that I'm not having a decent workout. I am, but I'm not escalating it. I'm not measuring that escalation. I'm
Yeah.
not monitoring the positives that I get from that.
Yeah.
Is that something you've come across?
Yeah, quite often. I think it surprises me because the level of depth that you can go into in the field of exercise, it's infinite.
Yeah.
It goes. There's so many variables, and there's so many things that you can do. There's just so many different training systems and training methods.
Yeah.
And with all of the different variables, with all of those different methods, it's like, take your pick where you want to go here. You can make this as exciting as you want, but it comes with the precursor of what are you doing it for?
Yeah.
So you've got to look back at it and say, okay, well, do I want to get into the depths of this world of training? Okay, because in order for you to be able to do that, there's got to be a strong enough reason why. Dorian Yates is a classic example of that. The bodybuilder Dorian Yates, and when he's been interviewed on his podcasts, he asked, okay, what was you doing in terms of your training? And I think it was for around about 15 years, he documented every single training session that he did in a notebook of how many reps that he did, how much weight that he did, what exercise that he did today, how he changed it, where he put his hands in the grips and how it was different from last weekend. Every single thing that he did. And, obviously his outcome was he was the, Mr. Olympia for, I think, 7 or 8 times, I think. Incredible success, but he was just dialed into the depths of that world of both training and nutrition and just playing around with it. And, that's the rabbit hole that you can get into in any different method of exercise, be it yoga, CrossFit, bodybuilding.
So
running,
is that the
anything.
key, is it, in terms of how someone who's stuck in a bit of a rut, it's not that they're not exercising, they are, but maybe they've just lost sight of the focus. Is mixing it up a good way of getting yourself out of the rut?
Yeah, I think it's good to try different things, because there's so many things that you have a go of it and think, I hated that. Forget that, or you try something else and think that was really good. So surprisingly, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
For example, for me on the bike, I hate the bike. I hate it. And I've tried, and I've been cycling, and I've tried, and I just cannot bear it. Absolutely not. But running I love it. Yeah. Absolutely love it, and love running. And then I then started doing fell running. And fell running was just opened up my world completely into this new arena.
What's fell running, sorry?
So running across the mountains.
Oh,
in
right,
essence.
okay. Boss.
And I started that, and there was no turning back. If you're into running and you go fell running, you will never do street running again. You will keep on doing that, because what you get back from doing fell running up in the hills is just untouchable. It's a different world. You go off into this different space. I've done 20, 25 milers up and down the hills in the Howgills, in Snowdonia, and the sights, the nature, the connection with nature, the smells, everything about it, the isolation, the solitude to it all. It is magical.
Yeah, you're connected.
And yeah, absolutely. And so I'd never done that. I trained for years, well, since I was a kid, and doing this, I think it was probably about 3 years ago, I started it, and I was like, whoa, this is completely different. And then from a performance point of view as well, it was a different world.
And so, what really comes across there is just how much you enjoy this. Almost the exercise side of it is, to say it's secondary probably doesn't give the right message, but this is a part of your enjoyment of life. If someone like me came to you and said, look, me having the motivation to exercise isn't the problem, it's just I've got stuck into a bit of a rut, would you want to examine how that rut can be broken in a way which is triggering some real positivity as well? Yeah,
I think it's very difficult when you've got other people, because you don't know the things that are either triggering them in certain ways, or what their visceral motivations are, the feedback that they get. So you have to test it. So you have to say, let's try this.
Yeah.
And let's see the visceral feedback that you get. Is it good? Did you like it? Or definitely not.
Yeah.
You know, so I always just look for the feedback, and you can tell, you know, when somebody does something, the expression changes when they do it. They're like, oh, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You know, so it's testing the water in different realms. And we're waiting to see what the response is. And then once you find something, then absolutely pounce on it. Because it's that passion, isn't it? And when you love something, away you go.
Yeah.
You're off.
Completely.
And you can't stop the person then. And that's the thing that I love to try, is to get people to be able to move into those realms where they're using the body in the way they're like, God, that was amazing. That was amazing. I mean, one time I'd done a 22 miler on the Howgills, and it was in a storm. And for the majority of the way, I would just say that it was hell. That's how it felt. It was just awful. There was nothing great about it. And there was one point where I was hanging, and I stopped on this hill. This hill was like that, and I can't do it. And this storm was hammering me, and I was even starting to get cold, even though I was running. And as I was trying to get up the hill, my legs were cramping, my legs were seizing, and I was just in a state. And I remember thinking, if I don't get off here, I'm probably going to die. Yeah.
That's a pretty big motivation.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it was, yeah, because you're in the middle of nowhere and there's nobody around.
No.
And, you know, you can't just, you know, hit the stop button. And I thought, yeah, this storm's going to do me in here. And so I kept going, and I got down to my knees, looked at the state and the mess that I was in, and I just started laughing. And I just looked up into the sky, and I was like, is that the best you got? Well, do you think you're going to stop me? And then I just got back through it again and carried on, and then got to the end. And when I got to the end, the feeling of being able to go through that and get through, it was incredible. You know, it was just amazing, everything that gives to me from that experience. And that built a lot of resilience within inside myself. And these are the things that are perfect for mindset training with people. So it's like, do things sometimes that are going to push you and test you, because it's going to build your strength within your mindset, and it's going to really kind of help you. But at the same time, that reward is, well, it's untouchable.
That's the thing, isn't it? That if you actually get feelings of physical challenge, if your mind is linking them with positivity, with
Yes.
with reward fulfilling outcomes, that's when you stick with things. To use the example from the start, if you're just kind of tipping up to the gym and eating lettuce, your mind is not linking that life change with anything remotely positive.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And again, you know, to jump on that analogy there with, you know, the lettuce, if you're in the philosophy of the vegan diet and it's that whole philosophy within your lifestyle, then it's no problem eating that lettuce. It feels good because of what it's doing, not just for me, but for, you know, the external side to it, you know. And so it's getting into those depths of it all. And that's where, you know, I really like to kind of get people into. The bottom line is it's got to mean something to you.
Yes.
You know, and so every time I'm looking for that feedback, I'm looking at what excites you, I look at what motivates you, I look what you love getting into it, why are you doing it, the motivations behind it all. And so that's the big thing for me.
Well, that comes across, that passion and positivity and commitment that you've got in terms of working with your clients has come across through everything we've talked about today, Lewis. So what's next for you? What does the future hold for you in terms of your business?
Well, it's taken, you know, all of this and the experiences and everything that I've had now, and being able to teach it. You know, that's what I want to do, and doing it with clients and watching how clients, and I will say not change or lose weight, I will say complete life transformation. That's the thing that really does it for me. And when I see somebody that, you know, hasn't just kind of lost the weight, they have lost the weight, but they've also changed so much about their life, the way that they think, the way that they operate, the way that they show up in the world, the confidence levels, everything is on another level. And that just excites me. Yeah. And I love being able to get people into that stage, to be able to do that. And it's incredibly rewarding. So for me, it's getting people into a program to be able to do that now, and so that's what all of my content is about. On the website and YouTube, is to start really kind of getting people into the philosophy to it first, and then when you understand it, have a go and start moving into this space of philosophy and principles and everything meaning something to you, and start really moving down this road of complete transformation. So everything that I do within the program is all based along all of those areas there. So looking at mindset, going through the driving forces, what motivates you, and really kind of getting into the detail of that. Then going through focus and discipline and courage and resilience and all those things that are part of it, and teaching it. And so it's giving people things to do that helps develop and strengthen that. Because once I know that person's starting to develop in that good mindset, then they're away, and they're really kind of moving with things. So that's the thing that I'm teaching, that it lights me up, and it's great to be able to take people to that level, because it is life changing. It really is.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, I think what's come across, as I say, is that you are focusing on much more than just the 10 burpees and 10 squats.
Just a bit, yeah.
And I would encourage everyone to check out Lewis's website. I love your Instagram and I love your YouTube stuff. So do check that out, guys. I know that people, if they want to contact you, can contact you via your website or your socials.
Yeah.
And are you happy to speak to people at different levels? So from the beginner through to someone who perhaps just isn't getting the outcomes from the training they are doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody. It doesn't matter, what arena that you're in. It's the principles and the essence of it all is all the same. It's what part of those fundamentals are you missing? And that's it. If you just unlock those parts of your mindset, what parts of the fitness game are you lacking in? What's missing there? What parts of your lifestyle is wrong or not right there? And we just focus on those areas. So it doesn't matter who you are. You will have things that are going well and aren't. And we just go through, that whole kind of process. So yeah, it's for anybody.
Excellent. I'm going to finish with the same question that I ask everyone, Lewis, and that's what does success mean to you?
What does success mean to me? It's going to sound a little bit cheesy, this, but for me, it is for fulfilling my purpose. That is my overarching statement and my direction of my life. And so what my purpose in essence is for me, it's serving. It's being of service, serving humanity as much as I possibly can, whilst at the same time living my best life, because I'm not really kind of into the whole, burning yourself to keep other people warm, because that to me, I don't see the point in that,
No.
So it's about giving everything that I've got as much as I possibly can to help, but also at the same time is absolutely just loving what I'm doing and living my best life every single day.
It's so important, isn't it? Because you have to be resilient as well, of course, to navigate through the difficult times in your own life and through business we've touched about. And that's not easy. And the fact that you enjoy what you do, the fact that you're happy, that's absolutely crystal clear. That's that's not only going to make you feel good, but it's going to help you keep helping people. So it's been an absolute pleasure, Lewis. Thanks so much for doing it again. Thanks for your company.
No problem. It's been a blast. And thanks for having me on. And
as I say, everyone do check out the website, check out some of the blogs. There's so much good stuff on there. We'd love to have you back. I mean, we've touched upon things. We've touched upon intermittent fasting, and we've touched upon different exercise regimes, which is a podcast in themselves. We'd love to have you back, Lewis. But in the meantime, thanks for being our guest. And should we say thank you to Lewis?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
That was superb.
Yeah.
To get out of bed and because I know that's hard to get out of bed, because this morning I was just lying in bed all day. But what motivated you to get up and go to the gym and work there and teach other people how to do stuff what you're doing?
I think that's an excellent question to start off with, but I think that for me it's the excitement of knowing that I'm going to be able to help some people and have an impact on some people. So it's not purely because, I'm going to go to the gym so I can work out and, look great or whatever it is. It's nothing to do with anything in terms of me. It's to do with the impact that me going to the gym and me helping people actually does. So my kids watching me go to training all the time, has now impacted what they do. So they're always running around, exercising, doing press-ups and all sorts of stuff. And so they don't need to be taught anything. And so I know that from what I do, rubs off, on my kids as well. So that's a thing that helps me, and I always think that they're watching what I'm doing.
Yeah, and also as well, is there anyone who's inspired you?
Oh, loads.
To when my dad goes to the gym, my sister always goes, doesn't she?
Sometimes as well.
Yeah, sometimes, but is there anyone who's inspired you?
Okay, so do you mean my biggest inspiration across life, or just or the gym?
Who inspired you to have your job or?
God, I've got a lot of role models that I use. I think I'd probably say my favorite at the moment there's two. There's a guy called Rich Roll in the States. He's a big vegan guy and an ultra athlete. And there's another guy who's a CrossFitter called Marcus Philly. And they are similar in nature, but two completely kind of different guys. But I like the way that they are, and they inspire me to up my game and be the best that I can be. So I keep watching them, because I can see if I can get anywhere close to them, then I'm doing a great thing. So they're the ones that really keep me going.
Good answer. Did you enjoy that?
Yeah.
Well done.
Thanks for that. Good questions. Yeah, awesome.
So Lewis, he's got a completely different mentality, I think, about how nutrition and exercise should be dealt with. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, he does have a different approach, doesn't he? Because what became very clear was that he's not someone who's going to work with a client just to take the money.
Yeah.
That there's something which underpins Lewis in terms of what he wants to achieve in terms of helping people. And he recognises that when you're looking to achieve health and fitness goals, it's about your mindset before just what you do in the gym, how often you go to the gym, how long you stay there, all these sort of things, which I think we've been programmed to think underpins successful physical outcomes. Got to go to the gym 5 times a week, got to stay for an hour. These things which don't actually lead to any outcomes. So he's such a genuine guy. He's so passionate about what he does. And it all made sense to me as being a better approach.
Yeah, he tries to make it maintainable, doesn't he? So, obviously, he was talking about if you like cycling, you'll put that into your routine. If you like hiking, for me, I get I'm quite a confident person, but when I go into the free weight section of the gym, my nerves just go. I'm not confident at all because I think I'm doing things wrong. So for someone who was never entered a gym and that I can see why that would be traumatic for them.
Well, I touched on that, didn't I? Because when I speak to a lot of people, the fact they don't look how they want can actually prohibit them doing something about it.
Oh, definitely.
Because the idea of going to the gym in a tight pair of shorts and a T-shirt when you've got people who do look pretty good walking around can be intimidating. And it was really interesting the way Lewis tackled that head on in terms of breaking that sort of chain of negativity.
Yeah, and I love the way he approached mental health as well, because for me, one of the main reasons I do go to the gym, it's a routine, because I'm a sucker for routine. If I don't go, I feel all out of sort. But my mental health, it helps me so much to focus and to feel good, because it does release serotonin in your brain. So,
well, again, we went into a bit of the science around that, didn't we? And that was so interesting. And it's like I said, what I'd recommend to anyone, I'm not someone who has achieved all my fitness goals, far from it. But I can say to everyone that whatever they enjoy in terms of exercise, if it's walking a dog, if it's walking, if it's riding a bike, if you do it and you can maintain that enjoyment, you will feel better. And when you also start looking better, that's a huge motivator. mean, does this mean that I can drink loads of Guinness, do you think?
Well, I was thinking that. I was thinking iron, technically you need that in your body, so it's got to be good for you. If he drinks it, he looks pretty all right, doesn't he, to be fair?
Yeah, I could see you thought that.
Sorry, Lewis.
Well, guys, it was an absolute pleasure talking to Lewis Bailey. I hope you enjoyed it as much as Stacey and I did. We'll hope you'll come back soon on Success Won't Come Calling. It's the podcast for people who want to be better tomorrow than they were today. And we hopefully will see you again soon.
Bye.